Hello everyone, Rich with Thrive and Survive. I'm making this video because so many questions keep coming up that are the same that I'm trying to answer over and over. So I'm going to try to put as many quick answers that I can to the most commonly asked questions so that I can have a video to send people to. First of all, this is a representation of the flat Earth. On flat Earth, in this representation, there are other models, and we're going to look at actually maybe at least one other one here. You're going to find out that in this model, the outside here, this white area, is Antarctica. Imagine a coin. The rim of the coin would be Antarctica going all the way around. Just to let you know, and someone pointed out who said that they were trying to make the point that the Earth was a globe, that even in South America, the compass will point to north, and that is correct because there's only one real pole. Okay. People talk about that there is a southern pole star. That's a lie. There's no pole star that you can see in the south, like Polaris, which does not move, and we're going to get there, I think, in this series here. Okay, so this is the flat Earth. I don't draw very well, and I'm only using paint. So these are the different continents. I know they're kind of crazy here. This is Australia, North America, South America, Europe, Africa, the islands out in the in the Atlantic Ocean rather, and I know I'm missing some land masses, but this is just a quick thing just to try to teach people. So this is the shape of it, and a lot of people say, what about the edge? If you turn this coin and look at it on its side, imagine 1,500-mile high ice wall all the way around, and that's been reported. I haven't seen it myself. I don't know if it's there. So that's we can get deeper into that in another video. Now that we have the shape down, let's take a look at something else. Another common question is, how can I explain the seasons? And this is how the seasons are shown on a flat Earth. These different colored rings are the sun in its apparent path above the Earth. This would be the exact path, not the apparent path. Of course, you know, this is all not to scale or anything, but it's just to show you. Okay, the red one is the most important one. The sun goes around the red one here on the first day of spring and the first day of fall. This would be the equinoxes. And as days go by past the equinoxes, let's say we're heading towards the summer here in the northern hemisphere. With each rotation, we're slowly getting closer and closer to the yellow one with each passing day until the first day of summer. We get to the very northern part, and you can see how then the North Pole would have sun the whole time. Imagine that the distance that the sunlight can reach is in a circle, something like this. Okay. All right. So anyway, so as the sun goes around, and by the way, the sun is much lower than what is and that's been shown in other videos. Flat Earth people generally think the sun is about 3,100 miles above the surface and roughly 3,000 miles in circumference, okay? And that is a little bit more advanced, but that's how it works. So then once we get to the solstice here, then it starts working back out, okay, slowly towards the red as we go along. And we get here, and then we're on. As you can see, the circle's getting larger as it's going back down. So we hit the fall equinox here, and then during winter, we come down here, all right, like this. All right, and this is how it works. All right, and then we start slowly moving back up here. All right. Now, my channel, we've been talking about the problem of the analemma, and that is, this is the apparent position of the sun in the sky taken every day during the year. And as you can see, when it goes down into the southern hemisphere, it is a much wider circle than what you have in the northern hemisphere. This is very difficult to explain on a globe. Okay. However, on the flat Earth model, we can see that when it is in the southern hemisphere, the circles are much larger than in the northern hemisphere. We also have a phenomenon known as fast sun, slow sun. Can you see how the sun would be faster when it's up here than when it's down here, at least apparently in the sky in your observation? Because it's going around in 24 hours, it's covering much less of a distance, so it's moving faster. Okay, apparently. All right. Anyway, I've seen some other models that I will get into that are very interesting. but this is the simplest one to get for now. Remember, science isn't helping on this, so we're left to come up with these models ourselves. The time zones, okay? Now let's take the first day of winter, and the sun is right here at 12 noon, okay? As you can see, on the other side of the earth, it would be midnight. All right, and then you have the times right here. Now, instead of the earth rotating, you take this spoke here, and I should have put 9 p.m. That's missing here. Sorry about that. But you just grab this spoke and move it over every 3 hours, and you can tell what the time is anywhere on the earth. All right, and you can fill in the different time zones in between. So the spoke on top turns with the sun, and that's how you get the time zones. Very easily explained. Okay, for those of you who believe the Bible and the Quran also, and all the ancient writings like the Samaritans, the Mayans, and things like that, people will say they believed in a circular earth and things like that. No, they did not. Okay, they believed in a non-moving flat earth. And the Bible talks over and over about how the earth cannot be moved, and there's different scriptures that show different things about the earth, and I'm going to talk about those as quickly as I can here. I'm probably going to miss some stuff, but this is all taken from scriptures, from Genesis and all the way through. All right, it's a flat earth model in the Bible, and it does not move. Start with Second Chronicles, I believe Psalms 104, and on and on. You'll just Google flat Earth Bible verses, and you will get people that have tons of them for you. So let me explain. Again, I'm not a good drawer, but I'm going to try to give you what I see from the scriptures I've read so far. I got to look into this more. We either believe the Bible or we don't. I am a believer. God put the earth, and he formed the waters and separated the waters to where you have waters above the firmament. The firmament is the dome. All right, that it's a place placed above the earth. The Bible also says that no man has ascended into the heavens, and in that case it refers to what's called the third heavens. The Bible has three heavens: the atmosphere, where the sun, moon, and stars are, and God's abode. People like Enoch and things like that who were translated into the heavens, it was always the Hebrew word for the first heavens, into the atmosphere. All right, just a side note. But there's a firmament placed, and then above that firmament, this dome here, there's waters. He separated the waters above the firmament from the waters beneath the firmament. The tides, I'm not sure how it works, but it appears maybe this floats up and down on it. And by the way, the tides by the moon don't really make sense. They're generally every 12 hours and so many minutes apart, and the moon doesn't exactly go around the sun that way. And sometimes you only have one tide a day, and you never have tides in the lakes and different things like that. And that's because the lakes, I believe, are more surface, and they're not attached to the firmament underneath. And I don't know if it presses down on top, which pushes it down, or if this just floats up and down on a 12-hour roughly period. But I believe that's what causes the tides, not the moon. And we're going to get to the moon too. Sheol, or hell, in the Old Testament and in the New Testament, in many cases where it's hell, it just means the grave or the abode of the dead, the underworld, the ground underneath the surface. All right, that is what the Bible calls Sheol, or hell. It's where you bury people. All right, and it also says in the Bible that when people die, they go down to Sheol. And if you're in Australia, in reality, wouldn't you be going up to Sheol? Just something to think about. All right, beneath that you have there are places in the Bible where it talks about people would be able to have find riches beneath the earth. In fact, that applies to the Arab peoples, and they have definitely found riches beneath the earth in oil and other minerals and things like that. But beneath that, it talks about the bottomless pit. And that's apparently where the fallen angels, at least some of them, are being held. All right, these right here, the Bible talks about the pillars that the earth sits upon. And these keep the earth fastened so that it does not move. All right. Now, It also in the second heavens here, it's still in the firmament or at the top of the dome, okay, underneath the firmament. You have the sun, moon, and stars. Now the Bible says that these are lights. The moon does not reflect the sun's light, and I will show that to you. And I purposely did this exactly the way it is almost today and tomorrow and the next day. This is June 22nd, 2015. It happens about the 7th or 8th day of the moon cycle, maybe even the 6th day, on a waxing moon. You have a half moon like this, or even slightly less than half, and here's the sun behind you. Stand with the sun to your back, look at the moon, and the moon's half-lit side does not point directly to the sun. It's pretty close, but it's about 20 degrees off is what I estimate. All right. Now there's some joker on YouTube that I did a bozo science guy video before about. He claims that if you look through a camera at the junction between the ceiling and a wall, that this will cause and turn the camera, you'll see how it causes an optical illusion of the wall going up and down, and this is what causes this phenomena. Well, don't do it with a camera. Look at it with your naked eye and turn your head up and down and see if you get the same effect. You will not get it. These are sleight of hand things, people, to cause you to be in confusion. The sun, moon, and stars, I believe the wandering stars, the what we call the planets, they're disks too that are lights in the sky. We don't have any proof of any sphere, and we're going to get into that and share that very shortly. Now, the sun puts off a warm yellow light. Things that are in the sun during the day in sunlight are hotter than those in the shade. The moon puts off a cool silvery light. Those in moonlight, objects in moonlight are actually slightly cooler than those that are in shade. Okay, the shade of the moon, when the moon's out strong enough to where it casts a shadow, those in the shadow are actually warmer than objects in the moonlight. Now, if you want a tough search, look up the properties of sunlight versus moonlight. Good luck. This is something that's very hidden from us. The sun does not reflect the moon. And here's one other thing I'm going to point out. The sun and the moon and the earth are all over the place as far as they're not flat on the plane according to the science model. The moon is up and down in relation to the earth, and the earth is up and down in relation to the sun. In fact, it takes 19 years for the sun, earth, and moon to come back into the same cycle, exactly the same places in the sky again. But no matter what's going on with anything, the moon is day 2 of its cycle. It looks like day 2 of its cycle, no matter where you are on the earth, from pole to pole. If you can see the moon, it looks the same everywhere. Yes, you get a different perspective. And let me show you that right now. People say, see, if I'm in the southern hemisphere, then the moon looks upside down compared to the northern hemisphere. Well, take a picture of the moon, put it on the wall, on your ceiling, tape it to your ceiling, okay, up here, and view it from one side of the room, and then view it from the other side of the room. You haven't changed planes, you haven't been on a ball, and you'll see it's exactly the opposite. Look up at it from this direction and look at it from this direction. Okay, from this direction on a flat plane, you look at it, the lit part is facing away from you. On this side, you look at it on a flat plane, and the lit part is facing towards you, the mirror opposite. And you didn't have to go on a globe to see it. Now, here's another thing that just cracks me up. I get all the time people writing me, you can't see Polaris from below the equator, and that proves that we are on a globe. Guys, this happens all the time. People, I don't know where you hear this stuff, but that's not true. That is not true. And I'm going to tell you something I think that's going to surprise you. You know what is true? You can see Polaris from beneath the equator. Why? How is that possible? It is possible. Believe it or not, guys, they used to say that we were not tilted 23.5 degrees the way they say we are now. All right? And the reason why they picked that, by the way, is Illuminati number. From 90 degrees, the way it should be, they tilted us enough so that the other angle was 66. They love the number 33 as in 33rd degree Mason, and 66, man's number 666 if you're into the Bible. You're going to find that everywhere with astronomy, and that's what they have done. They've made it fit their occult. But why did they all of a sudden say, instead of 90 degrees, which they always said since they first started the Earth going around the sun, all of a sudden they switched it? It was because people out at sea were starting to report that they could see Polaris from beneath the equator. So they said, oh, we can't have that. So they all of a sudden said the Earth was tilted 23.5 degrees, and then they made up the stories about how the seasons work and all that. I don't know what they used for the seasons before, but yes, you can see Polaris from down below. Um, I think I covered everything on here I wanted to. So the boat of God would be up here. There's also some gates that the Bible talks about that can open here. This is what I believe CERN is trying to do. They know, guys, they know we cannot get out of this. Again, no one has ascended into heaven except he who came down from heaven. And we can't get out of this, and science knows it. We can't get above the Van Allen belts, which is great radiation. All right. If mankind could get through great radiation, how come they don't put spacesuits on people that supposedly protected them from all kind of different radiations through the Van Allen belts and into space, and yet they can't find anything to put on people to go into Fukushima to fix that. Granted, a lot of that is different radiation, but some of it is the same. Anyway, topic for another time, and let's go on to the next thing. Okay, I think I'll save most of this for another time. I'll just introduce it now. According to everybody else, we are moving 1,030 miles per hour or 1,658 kilometers per hour towards the east at the equator. And yet, if you fire a cannonball up straight up in the sky, it'll come straight back down and land in it. The cannon, everyone wants to say, oh, it's all relative, it's all moving, the atmosphere, everything is moving. With the Earth. They treat the atmosphere as a solid, like the whole atmosphere is moving at 1,030 miles per hour, when it simply is not. Okay, they've done these experiments. They've even had the cannonball come back down and go into the cannon. All right, when you shoot this cannon up, it has its own velocity, its own. It's no longer It's no longer moving at the, assuming that it was in the first place with the Earth at this rate. Okay, it's got its own force behind it. So for them to be able to shoot it up and several seconds go by and it comes down. Oh, and a lot of people say, there's a video on YouTube saying that shooters take in the Coriolis effect, long-term rifle, range rifle users. This is false. I've hunted myself. I've talked to several hunters, and there's been pro hunters that have written back and told me that's BS. They do not take the Coriolis effect when they're shooting. They take gravity, or the force that pulls the bullet down to the earth, into effect, and they take wind and different conditions like that. But they don't say, oh, I'm facing west, so I have to shoot so many inches higher, and or I'm facing east, so I have to shoot so many inches lower. Okay? They don't do that. That's a lie. The guy was just trying to promote his gun, his rifle. That's all he was doing. And if you want to get in and tear that apart, I can tear that video apart bad. Sound also. Sound moves at slower than what the Earth supposedly spins, and yet no matter what side you're on, you can hear the cannon go off. All right. Airplanes, they can only go at 500 kilometers per hour, and yet when they head towards this way, towards the east, and let me widen this up a little bit. That's better. When they move towards the east, they should have all they have to do is really go up there and just kind of hang like a helicopter. And something that's 658 kilometers away this way, all they have to do is wait for an hour, it should come under them. But no, they say the atmosphere is actually moving at the same speed. Okay, well, if it is, you can't have it both ways. When a plane is going this way, if the atmosphere is moving at the same speed, how can a plane moving 500 kilometers per hour ever overcome it? It can't. It just simply can't. Speed of sound, let me get back to that. It is slower than the speed of the Earth moving. So would the person over here ever hear the sound? Would it ever catch up to him? What if we had something hovering? And astronauts coming back in space, huh? What, they're outside where there's no molecules supposedly, or very few. They're not moving with the Earth, are they? But yeah, when they come in, as soon as they hit the Earth's atmosphere, bam, they'd be shot off to the right over here at 1,658 kilometers an hour, wouldn't they? But they're not. They come back in, and we saw I remember I saw all the Apollo missions. When they came back, you could even it's tracking where they are over the Pacific Ocean and where they're coming down, and it's a straight line almost. It's coming down just a nice gradual thing, and it comes down, and they hit the Earth's atmosphere, and they're talking then about how the heat shield's going on, and they're simulating it coming down. It never all of a sudden accelerates greatly because everything's moving 1,658 kilometers per hour. Guys, they're telling you to dismiss your brain and your senses. Don't do it. Okay? This stuff right here, this is if you shot out confetti. Okay? With no wind, it would come up and come back down as well, just like the cannonball. All right? Um, it's nonsense to think that the air and everything else is moving that way. And again, when you know the properties of sound, okay, it doesn't it moves, it needs air as a medium, but if there's a or let's say a 40-mile-per-hour wind going from west to east, all right, that doesn't slow down the sound, all right. It just uses sound to go through it. But if it was heading to this person, it would be heading slower, even if it could make it to him, because everything's moving away from him. You would get what's called the Doppler effect. The person over here would hear a much lower pitch than this person over here. It just makes no sense when you get into the properties of sound. Earth does not move. All right, I understand this is a horrific representation, but in a way I'm kind of glad it is, because a lot of people don't get what I say about this. If the moon was a globe instead of a disk that lights up on its own, I've already shown that you cannot reflect light that you do not get. The sunlight's properties are not the properties that the moon reflects. How can the moon generate something that's different from what it receives? It can't, unless all this is magic dust, right? That came from gravity, because that's magic dust too. But here's the deal. If it wasn't a disk, as we got up towards the poles and around each edge, all right, just like the supposed edges of the Earth we've seen, it would start to get darker, like here, because the land is moving away from you. Not only that, but the moon is 1/4 the size roughly of the Earth. So these will be even sharper than the turns of the Earth. This would be moving away from you rapidly, much more sloped than the Earth is, because it's smaller. Okay, how sloped is a little basketball? Very sloped. All right, the bigger it is, the less slope it is. So we should see darker along the edges of the moon. We do not see that. Again, this is over exaggerated, and it's, I know, crummy little cut and paste stuff, but this is what we should notice. And it should probably be this drastic almost, because the moon's size is so much smaller. Again, you can either pay attention to your senses and what your brain tells you, or I mean, I've already heard people come up with magical stuff about what's on the moon, that maybe up here there's different stuff than that's down here. Guys, supposedly this is hit with meteors all the time, and the dust from supposedly the moon landings was 6 inches deep, and there's no reason why a meteor would hit here any more often than here, or here, or here, or here, or whatever. And besides, these things, these little meteorites, they're coming down at the moon at faster than a speeding bullet, faster than a speeding bullet. And yet, these little flimsy looking spacesuits, they didn't have to worry about them penetrating it. Okay? Use your brain, use your senses. They've talked us out of using them. What you're going to find out is NASA lies. I'm going to cover something very little bit of it right here. This is shot from the International Space Station. And by the way, this is not zoomed. Why? Because we can see something in the foreground. If you zoomed in on the Earth, this would be gone, wouldn't it? I'll show that in another one. That'll come up, because that has come up already. But the thing is, oh, by the way, what's this on the International Space Station? The paint's peeling off? And if that's caused by these little meteorites hitting it, how come it's not hitting these solar panels and destroying them? In any case, it's been argued that all the cameras on the International Space Station are shot out of round windows to make the Earth look round. And people say, no, they're not round. They use GoPro lenses. You'll learn about that. that makes things look round when they're not. And we'll get into that more. But I captured this little picture supposedly of the ISS up there, and every single picture is round. I mean whole. Every single place where a camera could be a window. Every single one is round. Why round? Why round? It's because they want round images to make it look like you're looking at an entire Earth if they want you to think so, or this. And by the way, if you look at these things, this live ISS feed, they can be torn apart like crazy. Jeranism site does a good job at that. Unbelievable, crazy stuff they want you to believe. And by the way, you never see more than, I don't know, 30 seconds or a minute, maybe 2 minutes of one scene at a time. Then all of a sudden it switches to something else. Why? That's a good question. You never have any identifiable land, and I never see things that actually look right in meteorological terms. This looks right on a small scale, but first of another thing, I've never seen lightning from there. Maybe they simulate it, but I've never seen it. Okay, this is an excellent video by Mushin Agafi. I'm going to spell it M-U-S-H-I-N, second A-L-G-H-A-I-T-H-I. Very good video here. I'm going to keep the sound off and we're going to play it. And I'm going to comment for you. Ships at the horizon line do not dip below a curve that does not exist. I'm reading this, guys, for people that are watching us on mobile devices. Here we have a ship out there at sea. I've seen this so much it makes me sick. I was in the Navy 3 years, and that's probably 6 or 7 miles out. That should be over 100 feet or close to 100 feet below the horizon. And you don't worry, at the end of this, it'll zoom all the way out and you'll see where they are. You don't see the bottom of the ship below the nose or rear. About half the ship looks like it's below the horizon. This is because it melts into the horizon line. It's an illusion. You need to get in and look at the different properties of vantage point and things like that. Perception. Okay, now they're going to zoom in. This gets all better at the end, by the way. You can see much more of the ship already. Now notice the bottom of the rear and nose is clearly seen. Back behind here, this dark part of the bottom in particular, I can even see the back part of the keel coming up. Mathematically, this should all be below the horizon. And by the way, guys, in this one you've got when you have white caps, that's at least a 3 foot wind wave. That doesn't even include the swells, which on a day like this looks like it's about a 5-foot swell. You could possibly have 8-foot waves. Look at this now. I'm going to pause this. It appears that it's gone on the horizon. All right, and watch as they go back in, it suddenly starts growing up this way. This is perspective and how it happens when things move toward the horizon. People always ask that. How does the sun go down? If it's moving away from you, it appears to go down and set. There are excellent videos that show that. In fact, it shows the actual sun going down, and when you understand that we aren't moving and the sun is moving, it actually looks better than what we've always thought. In any case, this guy, now granted, he's this far back. He's probably about, I don't know, 10 feet above sea level, if that. And there's a calculator, 10 feet, and then looking out 7 miles, there's no difference. Maybe half a foot. All right. Ships do not go over a curved earth. They simply melt into the horizon, which is the limit of our vision for objects of that size. This is a video, Arrow of Time, Milky Way Time-Lapse Collection by Harless99, Harles99. Here's another proof that you're not on the globe, which a lot of people enter perspective. Think about this. This guy has his camera, or girl has his camera pointed at Polaris, the North Star. All the other stars rotate about it, okay, in a circle that you're going to see. The Earth moves 93 million miles away from the sun. All right, that's the diameter of our supposed ellipse around the sun on average, 93 million miles. So that we are on one side of the side of the sun supposedly as we go around. That's 93 million miles back to the sun from where the Earth is, and then 6 months later we're 93 million miles on the other side. Okay, that's a total of 186 million miles shift. But no matter what day of the year you take this time-lapse photography, you're going to get the exact same picture every single time. And here's another thing to consider as you're watching this. The stars that are in this area here near Polaris or wherever it is, I guess it's over in here, they rotate once every 24 hours, okay, around. But they don't have that much of a distance, do they? And these are all apparently, okay, the same distance from us on our celestial plane. The ones on the edge spin much faster. That is not possible if we are racing through space or if we are turning. It is the heavens turning around us. And this is going to get real nice when they turn it into time lapse. Let me pause it here. Okay, the time lapse has started. The smaller circles here and the larger ones out here. All right, when you understand perspective, we cannot be spinning to get this. It's got to be the ether turning around us. And guess what? I don't care if you're standing at the pole or if you're standing in, let's pick Arizona where I'm at. You are on the same celestial plane. You'll get the exact same picture in Arizona as you will if you're standing on the North Pole. Anywhere you can see Polaris and do this, you get the exact same picture. If you're on a globe, you would get a different picture on the different plane that you're on. And I guess maybe I'll have to explain that in another video if you don't get it. On a flat Earth, it makes total sense why you get the same picture either way. Again, these are moving much faster than in here. You can barely even see these move. Those that understand perspective now just got this, that there's no way that the Earth is moving. Okay. All right, I think that's enough for that for this little review here. This video is from Conscious Truth, C-O-N-S-C-I-O-U-S, Truth, Conscious Truth. Now, what he's doing here is he goes to NASA's website to where they talk about these images being taken by Apollo this, Apollo that, or whatever. Okay? So they say they're real. Let's see if they are. Well, there it is. It looks real. People on my channel have already seen a NASA picture of the U.S. in this position, and it's about, I don't know, triple this size. We kind of joked about it because of how far it was from Florida to Mexico. Okay, probably be a 4-week cruise. In any case, this is supposedly a real image of the Earth that NASA says is real. Some slight problems pop up though. I know this may be difficult to see. There's 2 red squares here and 2 yellow squares here. These are going to be zoomed in on. Okay, here's the reason why they're zoomed in on. They copied and pasted the clouds on here. All right. In other words, there was no clouds either here or here, maybe not at either spot. I don't know where they came from, but I guess they stopped wanting to put in unique clouds. Here's another one I just spotted. This is the exact same hole as this one. Okay, and this thing down here. Oh my God, this is crazy. The question you have to ask is, why would they lie about this? Why would they lie about this? Look at this one. This is the exact duplicate as this right here. Do you think the clouds on the earth naturally duplicate themselves to perfection? Nah, cloud formations are just like snowflakes and fingerprints. No two are alike. Oh my, I spotted another two. This one right here is the exact same as this one. This whole group here. Oh my. This is ludicrous. And they suck trillions of dollars of tax money out. This is all fake and it's all a lie. And in my channel, we're getting to why it's a lie. Okay, what he's done here, he's really blown it up so you can see how. Look at this. Are you kidding me? Okay, I could go on and on and on and show you all the fakery of NASA, and we're going to be showing more. I'm going to show you fakery of moon landings, parallax pictures that show that they lied about that too. All right, so instead of wasting a lot of time, just know that they lied about one thing. If people lie to you about one thing, how much can you trust them? But everybody trusts that whatever NASA says is the gospel. Okay, guys, this is how I actually got into this. I am a weatherman. I was a weatherman in the Navy for 3 of the 4 years I was in there. I was a weatherman before. I've been a weatherman since I was 5 years old, if you want to call it that, because I've always studied it. Any case, this caught my eye when he said this was the superior mirage. Being out at sea most of those 3 years, you see all kind of different things, but you never see a superior mirage look like this. Never, ever, ever, ever. First of all, this is extremely sharp. It's, I believe it was 60 miles away, and they could see this. Now, the bozo here, he just repeats what he's told. TV weathermen, for 90% of them at least, do not know one thing about weather. They call the weather service or AccuWeather or whoever the private weather service is, and they give them all what to say. All right. This is no superior mirage. Like I said, it should be blurry, 60 miles away. First of all, these things should be way tilted away from the viewer. Okay. Now, for those of you who don't know what the formula is, to find out how far you can see or how far the curvature of the Earth is at a certain point, you take the miles away and square that. So if it's 10 miles away, all right, 10 squared, 10 times 10 is 100. You multiply that by 8. All right, that gives you 800. That's how many inches below the horizon something should be from you at 10 miles. Divide that by 12 and you will get how many feet. And if it's a lot of feet, divide that by 5,280, you will get how many miles. This, I believe, if I remember correctly, should have been about 1,500 feet, give or take a little, just estimating, 1,500 feet below the horizon. So for it to be 1,500 feet below the horizon and brought all the way back up to the surface, and you can see all of the Sears Tower, you get a total of like 3,500 feet that you got to adjust for on a superior mirage. Now, a real superior mirage, and you know what, I'm going to show you one to show you how fake this is. But as I was doing the video to disprove this being a superior mirage, because I've seen so many that have, none of them look like this. Show me one other superior mirage that looks like this. And guys say, well, you can't always see this. That's true. You can't always see this. There is something I explained in that video. It's one of my earlier videos where this is called refraction, not a superior mirage. It works sort of like how refraction works in a telescope. Sort of like it. Okay. According to this guy and the bozos who need to keep the flat earth or concave, I haven't ruled out concave. In fact, I haven't ruled out really any shape except for globe. Globe doesn't work because the earth doesn't move, therefore globe does not work. So, in any case, let me not spend too much time on this. I could look up superior mirage and look at all the different actual photos of a real superior mirage, and you will see that first of all the conditions aren't right. That's usually when an inversion occurs. There's no inversion here that I can see. And the other thing is see how they look. They look crazy. They don't look nice and sharp like this. Okay, and the reason why it can't be seen all the time is because atmospheric conditions aren't right. There is such a thing called vanishing point. This is why people say, well, how come I can't stand on the shores of England and see the Statue of Liberty? Things like that. Guys, when you get about 20 or 25 miles or 30, it depends on different atmospheric conditions. You reach what is called the vantage point. And we've already showed you that ships out at sea appear to go down below the horizon. One of the things about perspective is, let's say you have an object in this that's this tall. No, let's take the Sears Tower here. As this moves farther and further away, it will appear to go down towards the horizon. That's just a law of perspective, just like the law of gravity. There's a law of perspective. As it gets farther from you, it moves more towards the horizon line. Same thing with things below the horizon. The farther they are away from you, the more they move towards the horizon. It's easy to get this because we see this all the time. Okay, if I have a ship here and I'm moving it out further, 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 it's going to get smaller as it gets farther away, and then it finally reaches the vanishing point where you can't see it. And it's just a little teeny tiny thing, and when it's that far out, the slight aberration of light or pulling down of light at the surface makes it look like it disappears that way. It's just a perspective problem, okay? It's not a globe. And all you have to do is get yourself a good pair of binoculars or a telescope. And why does a ship that goes over the horizon, when you zoom in on it or look at it through a telescope, suddenly pop back up all the way? There's very good videos that shows this, guys. The reason is you're changing the vantage point of the observer. Where the observer would be all the way back here now, if you take a telescope, it takes you out here somewhere. That's really what it's doing. It's changing where your start point is to look. That's why it pops back up. It would not pop back up if the Earth was round. Okay? There we go. That's what they said was here. There was cold air here, a duct formed. That was, here's the other thing. Even if it was only the 1,500 or 1,400 feet, you're going from low-level clouds up to mid-level clouds in two different type of cloud layers, and yet these bozos, I mean, if you know weather, you know this is BS. Here they got a ship's right side up, it flips upside down, right side up, and then it grows. This is crazy. This is crazy stuff. I never even saw this before. Oh, man. They've got actually one, two, three, four superior mirages stacked on top of another. And it just so happened that it inverted, became sharp again, and somehow it reflected back down to the user down here. This is crazy stuff. And this guy doesn't know what he was really saying. I mean, you can't do that and not be cracking up. Okay, flat Earth and the Foucault pendulum. I get this a lot, and this is usually associated with a bunch of anger. And this is a perfect place to talk about how we no longer have critical thinking skills. All right, we assume just because we're told that the spin of the Earth causes the Foucault pendulum to move in different directions, that's the only possibility. Did you know that science has shown that there's other possibilities? I'm not going to get into it here. I'll let you see this go back and forth. Okay. And this is by Barting Man, Bartingman. It is also in my playlist on Flat Earth. Not everything in my playlist on Flat Earth I necessarily agree with, but I think it's good. There's something good in each one that's educational if it's there. But this explains how other scientists showed otherwise, what is causing this, and let me just say that it is not the Earth spinning. Okay, so you need to watch that one. Okay, guys, I think I'm going to call this quits here and something like question and answer for new flat earthers or something like that. And brainwashing. All right, I'm going to be talking more and more about that. We have been brainwashed in the West to believe everything that science and governments tell us. And there's a reason for it, and it's a big reason. And those of you who Christians know a great deception is coming, and it's coming very soon. And it all started with this. Remember the numbers 66 and 33, like 33-degree Mason and 666? We've already discussed that once here. It's all tied in together. It's very deep, and there is a reason why they would lie. And most of your questions that I haven't answered right now, if they have to do with something you can see or observe, It has to do mostly with perception is the answer. And we do not observe globes in space. All we can see is one side of them. The moon is a disk. I've already explained why. It does not reflect the sunlight. I've explained why there. Plus, that is called, I believe, inferred fallacy. Okay. What was the example I think given in Wikipedia for that? And by the way, guys, Wikipedia, I can put something up on Wikipedia and so can you. And then somebody else can go and modify behind you if they don't think it's right and give a different reference and whatever. You don't even have to put references up. Wikipedia is not the Bible of knowledge. It is what people think is the Bible of knowledge and what they think is right, and they put it up there. All right, use other sources, not just, now Wikipedia is fine to go and get references and stuff like that, but don't believe everything you read there. People have forgotten how Wikipedia started. It's people around the world contributing their knowledge and their viewpoint of knowledge. If they're brainwashed a certain way, they're going to put it up there that way. Okay? If they think that NASA never lies and all the images are true, they're going to say that. All right? I just showed you where they're false. And understand that no one really thinks that NASA would falsify anything, but we just showed where they do. And they're on their own site. You can go look at these photographs on their own site and see these duplicates like you just saw. And remember that NASA got most of its scientists from the Nazis, and the Nazis were into the occult and the Masons and things like that. Did you know that all the Apollo astronauts were either Masons or their parents were, or they were somehow affiliated with them? Buzz Aldrin, 33rd degree. Okay. I'm going to end it here because it's already 46 minutes long, but I'm going to send a lot of people here who are just getting into this, especially those who just, you're brainwashed. You're brainwashed who react with emotions instead of critically thinking it through. Could I have been lied to? Is there another answer for possibly why the moon is a white color and gives off a different light? Is there a different reason for the Foucault's pendulum? Is there another reason why the stars rotate? Why can we see Polaris below the equator? Is there another reason besides we're tilted 23.5 degrees? And we're tilted 23 degrees because they say we are, because all of a sudden they had a problem because people reported it below the horizon. And don't get into this argument back and forth that I made the first week I was into this about plane flights and whether they exist or not. I've had several people tell me that they could not book the flight. All right. I may actually use my travel agency and see if they can book one for me. But that's stupid because people can lie both ways about it. And people claim they've been on flights both ways. Oh, it took 6 hours longer than they thought. And then other people say, no, it was perfect. So we can't go by anything except what we can prove ourselves to start with. And I've put several problems up there recently that people just have not been able to answer. The analemma is one thing, especially in combination with a 24-hour day, and yet when you show the progress supposedly around the sun in 6 months, then at 12 noon you would be at midnight, and that probably won't make sense, and I'm going to do a better version of the video so more people get it. Take care, guys. I hope this helped the new people, especially that are into this. Bye.